Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for the confusion at the start. I'm still kind of working a few things out on this side. But the guys are out getting ready for qualifying. I'm just quickly getting a few things ready on my side of the screen. If my mouse will play along. Shucks. There we go. And yeah. Okay. Awesome. And of course, I forget to get that screen up. All right, so welcome. Today, we're busy with the second race of the Sim Experience Aussie V8 Championship. Proudly sponsored by Alwyn. We want to thank you very much for your sponsorship. It really means a lot to us, and it's going to enable us to do quite a lot with the platform. Looking at the standings from race 1, we've got Timo Smit taking away 40 points, followed by Dennis Mitchell, Dani van Rooyen, Mornay Deploy, Peter Grobler in 5th, Dylan Versaghi, Rowan Bauer, Sean Webber, Ian Upton, Melvin Geus, who unfortunately had a stroke of bad luck, Sean Johnson, Peter Geldenhuis. Looking at the rest of the standings, we've got Jason Null, Herman Nieuwoud, James Leach. So just a quick word about James Leach. For those of you that remember Agent 333, unfortunately his identity has been compromised, and we've identified him as James Leach. So he's taking 15th place there in the points. Then we've got Donnie Stander, Rian van der Westhuizen, Maurice van Wyk, Gavi Geus, David Blichnout, Kyle Heidemann, Mitchell Rust, and Skalk Versaghi rounding out the list. I'm just quickly going to put us on the intermission screen again, so that I can get all of my screens up and running again. We still have 20 minutes left of qualifying, and so far, if I can just get the tower up, there we go. We've got all our information as we need it. If I can only get the app screen to disappear now. There we go. Some growing pains. I had to move to a different platform, hopefully for performance reasons, although it is looking very slow on my side. Okay, let's see if this works. Temperature on the track is 36 degrees Celsius, so extremely, not extremely, but very warm. Some light clouds, and we're racing at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. I do apologize if we're going to sit with the slideshow here. It should improve as I swap this over into performance mode. Just quickly looking at the chat, we've got Haxa Computer Services saying good luck, guys. We've got Hulk Virenga, not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, saying good luck all. We've got Sean Weber also saying good luck to everyone. Thank you, everyone. Remember to say in the hi in the chat if you're here. It's always nice seeing everyone saying hello and seeing who's available. I might have to do something about this performance if it's going to be very slow. So just let me know in the chat what the stream is looking like. Currently, it looks like it's experiencing some problems. It's kind of having its moments. I'll just quickly see. I might need to downgrade the rendering on my side. Looking at qualifying, Mitchell is sitting on pole, Van Rooyen on second, very close with about 600 or 6 tenths. Ian Upton, and then sorry, just going to move my times over. Ian Upton, then Timo Smit, Pieter Geldenhuys, Ryan Bauer, and Bauer just jumping up to fourth there, unless it was Upton and I was kind of fooling my eyes. I also realized I did not have the sound on for you. Okay, so we've got Pieter Geldenhuys out on the track. Sandown is a interesting track. I know some of the guys have had performance issues. So actually, I hope you excuse me if I make use of the qualifying time period to just quickly fix my performance issues. I'll still stay with you and just kind of have a bit of a chat. Not the standings. Actually, I'll maybe put on a little bit of music for you just so that I can focus on fixing this. And then I will be with you very shortly. Okay, we're back, and I think we've got the performance under control. We just had to kind of dial back the visual settings for this course, but as long as we can see what's going on, it's going to be a lot better. Just need to quickly disable this on my side. Okay. Back to qualifying. So, while I was away, I think Michelle Pasagi said good luck for Skulk Pasagi. Looks like his girlfriend or wife. Probably the latter. I'm just always very careful. Wait, she's got the same surname, so wife. And then Gary Johnson saying good luck to Sean Johnson. Right. Looking at our drivers. So, up in front, we've got Dennis Mitchell with a very comfortable 108.271. That's blazing fast, especially considering how it compares to the rest of the pack. Then Van Rooyen, or just a little bit more than 0.2 behind him, so that's agonizingly close. Further down the field, Ian Upton also looking quite solid with a 109.2, and very close to Caldenace. Unfortunately, this lap for him is not going to be that good. He's running in the positive on his delta, so that means he's a bit over on his time. He's slower. Unfortunately, we see a car running wide there. I'm going to jump around a bit and see if we can find someone that's up on their delta. When I deploy, so the fellow that's going to start screaming at me when he watches the stream afterwards for accidentally putting music over that very nice video of his. He's also unfortunately up on his delta. That's not going to help him. Although he's only busy with the first section of the track, so he can still bring it back. Although he doesn't seem to be really gaining on his time. Looking around a bit, Melvin Goos in 9th. Also within striking distance of Renaud Deploy. He's on his outlap by the looks of things. Unless the performance delta is kind of off. And then Peter Grobler. Let's see how he's doing. So also in the raid for his delta. But further down, I'm just gonna pick out his name. Let's see, Marius van Wyk. He's on what seems to be a monster of a lap. Running wide in that turn has put him... Unfortunately, someone had a really bad time in the pits there. Marius, I don't think he got there in time. He might have lost a bit of time. So he seems to still be struggling with getting in a consistent lap. So you can see why his time is kind of fluctuating all over, and we'll leave him alone so that we don't put a commentator's curse on him. Skalk Versagi seems to be letting some of the faster cars through, so he's on an out lap. Very nice of him to make sure that these cars doesn't get into the way of someone else's faster lap. 4 minutes to go, 4.5, so still a bit of time for things to happen. Everything seems to be settled in at the moment. We'll stay a bit with Skalk Versagi. And I see now that my timing software actually tells me when it's an out lap, so feeling a bit embarrassed about that now. But let's see what he does. He does have a car ahead of him, but that car, as we know, is on their fast lap. So we'll see. These curbs do look very aggressive. So it is possible to unsettle the car quite badly if you run on them. So these drivers will have to be careful. And as we've seen in the past, these cars can be quite twitchy in the rear. So the rear tires might slide out quite easily. Skalk Versagi unfortunately not able to carry as much speed as he would like through the main straight. He's also running fairly tight through the chicane, so you can see the grey shadow kind of dictating the conventional racing line. Now that will probably not be the fastest line around here, but with chicanes you need to be careful and kind of plan for your exit instead of trying to enter it as fast as possible. These S's are also really tricky. As you can see, if you lift your wheel on that curbing on the inside, today's just not my day, apologies for that. So if you run that wheel on the curbing, you run the risk of actually throwing your car off and sending yourself spinning into the grass. So unfortunately, Skalk Versagi is not going to be able to put in a better time on his lap. Dennis is still out there, Dani, and I don't really see someone on a fast lap. Fortunately, Bauer going off there. A few of the gentlemen in the pits. Peter Grobler, James Leach. So unfortunately not able to improve on his time, and we can see a whole bunch of the cars leaving the pits now. So preparing. This gentleman, Herman Nieuwoud, seems to have found the time. You can see him running a second up on his delta, so he has the possibility of putting himself in a really nice position if he can hold on to this time. So we'll stick with him for now. And he jumps up to a 112.12 and immediately decides, okay, that's it. And he can be fairly happy with that. So James Leach also up on his delta. So for 5/10. So he's finding a huge amount of pace. It might be that he struggled to really get used to the track at the moment. And unfortunately, it's really difficult to maintain the speed through that last corner. So you can see him just losing out on the time as he's going down the straight, and that's not going to improve his time as much as he would like. Daniel van Ryn coming across the line and also not improving on his time. There's Mitchell, no improvement there, but that seems to have been an outlap, so he's going to be gunning for it now. Timo Smith, quite close to his delta there, and oof, that's not a nice thing to see around coming around the corner, having a car parked there. So let's see if Timo can push the car into the green here and get out a time that could put him in front of Upton. He just needs 2/10. So if he gets a good exit on that last corner, he can be, and he's actually done just that. So let's see if he can hold on to this extra time. Hopefully the car in front of him is not going to keep him up. He is dropping back in the time a bit, and he's got the exit, but it might not be enough. So while he does improve his time, that's not going to be enough to put him in front of Upton. But again, just showing that apologies, he put in a pretty darn good time to start with. We also want, we also just want to thank Timo Smith. He actually made a donation this week, so that, yeah, thank you very much for that, Timo, helping us here, getting everything up and running. And with that said, we've got qualifying done. So your pole sitter is Dennis Mitchell. Then we've got Daniel van Rooyen, Pieter Geldenhuys, Ian Upton, Timo Smith, Rohan Bouwer, Dylan Versaghi, Mornay de Plooy, Melvin Gous, Mitchell Rust, Pieter Krobler, James Leach, Sean Johnson, Marius van Wyk, Herman Nieuwoud, Rian van der Westhuizen, Skalk Versaghi, and Gavi Gous rounding out the pack. There is another driver on the server, but I'm not sure whether he'll be competing. So while that's happening, I'm just gonna sit here and talk with you a bit while we wait for the server to tick over. Just waiting for everyone to make sure that they've got the right setups, that they've got fuel in their cars for the race. I have known some drivers to actually push a bit too hard and kind of just put in enough fuel to barely finish the race, and where they would actually stop on the last lap, unable to finish because they ran out of fuel. So you always need to be very careful with what you do with these setups and how you manage them. So far, it seems to be that everyone's on the soft tires. We do not have a mandatory pit stop, so do not expect to see anyone going into the pits. And then at the finish of this race, we'll have a second race with the reversed grid for the drivers. So that is going to be very interesting because you've got the slower drivers in front, you've got the faster guys at the back, lots of overtaking, lots of opportunities for chaos. So that's going to be a very interesting one if you stay with us. Michelle Versaghi actually saying that this is Skalk's first race. So Yeah, best of luck to you, Skulk. We've all been in your situation where we had our first race, and I can just imagine the butterflies in his stomach at the moment. So we've got everyone on the grid. Maybe not. We do not want to focus on me. There we go. So, race starting in 20 seconds. See if we can get a nice view. Lights are out. Got the 6 lights. waiting. This is probably feeling like forever for the drivers. They've got their engines revved up. And they're off. Everyone getting a good start by the looks of things. We're going to have Mitchell going on the inside for the first corner. And ooh, that's running wide. He's going to kick himself about that. That's going to put him back quite a few places, and you can see him just safely rejoining there. Further down the pack, Melvin Goos finding himself in a bit of a sandwich there, doing well to keep out of the way of other drivers. And it seems to be that most of them are getting away fairly cleanly. Just Mitchell dropping back due to his own mistake there. Up in front. Skulk okay. Someone jumped to the pits, unfortunately. So I think Skulk might have had an unfortunate situation there, or he might have had an equipment issue. Donny van Rooyen leading the pack of cars. No real large gaps forming. So everyone's still staying fairly close together. Unfortunately, Mitchell seeming to drop back a bit more. That does seem like he's having some tire issues. And looking at Rowan Bauer, he's kind of running on his own a bit here in the middle. No one really close to him. And then in front of him, Melvin Goos is still staying on the behind of Timo Smit here. So running down the straight. And that blind crest can be a tricky one. And someone, I think that might have been Ian Upton locking his wheels there. There we go. It's a bit of a pity with the stationary cameras. So I was just putting the pressure on Timo Smit there. And this is going to cause Timo to make mistakes as he runs wide. This is going to put him in a position where he's going to open himself up for an overtake. Is there going to be an opportunity? We'll have to see. Donny van Rooyen setting the fastest lap, 109.952. These cars are still heavy, so we're not going to see times in relation to those we've been seeing in the qualifying yet. Melvin is deciding to stay behind Timo Smit and to rather play it safe and just see where his opponent's weaknesses are before he starts to pounce. Down the pack, James Leach putting the pressure on Maurice van Wyk. So he's going to start looking for opportunities to put pressure on Van Wyk, because he's being pressured from behind by Dennis Mitchell, who we know has had the pace through qualifying, but he's also had a bit of a confidence breaker at the start of the race. And just as we say that, we've got Van Wyk running wide. Unfortunately, these cars proving a bit heavy through the corners, so it might be that these drivers are still struggling through the corners with these powerful cars. And unfortunately, we've got someone stranded in the pits there. I can't really see the car number. Up ahead, Ian Upton getting within striking distance of Pieter Geldenhuis. And off in the distance, you can see Donny van Rooyen. So are they going to opt to rather stay together and maybe break down or use one another's draft to get ahead? Fortunately, it seems Deploy and Leach all falling back. Probably overtakes happening there. So in Upton, unfortunately not able to keep with Gelderhuis. So Gelderhuis is driving out from underneath him. And it might have just come down to that S section. I'm wondering whether that might have been the commentator's car that's gone off there. Let me just quickly make sure that's not me. There we go. So again, Upton being the closest at the moment, Leach and Johnson swapping places. So that seems to be that Leach just dropped back there, but with the incident, he does seem to be out nowhere due to his own mistake, but he's going to be on the drive back, so we'll see what happens from there. Donny van Rooyen comfortably leading with a 3-second gap, and it might be that Gelderhuis has lost a bit of pace. We still see Van Rooyen lapping in the 109.4s, so he's not going the fastest that he can, although he is setting the fastest lap of the race. So yeah, I think he might just be running up on pace. Timo Smith, in the meantime, catching up with Upton, and this is going to make it difficult for him. Upton now having his attention focused rather playing defensive. Those cars are really close together. Timo Smith trying to look for a gap on the outside, not finding it. Now through the SS section, is he going to find a better line, or is he going to be held up at the apex? Following fairly closely, that's 0.6 tenths. We've got a mistake from Upton running wide over the curb, and that's given Timo Smith the opportunity to go up the inside, and crucially giving him the position before the main straight so that he could actually make the turn as he wanted to. Upton now under pressure from Goos. Melvin Goos looking up the inside. He is alongside. Timo Smith is going to have to keep him in mind. And as they go through the corner, side by side, doing very well to not make any contact. Upton maintaining the momentum around the outside and out-driving his opponent. So that's some really good driving from him there. And essentially what happened there was by forcing his opponent to take the inside line and holding on to that momentum, he essentially could take a wider corner just due to the extra speed that a wider radius turn affords to him, where Goos actually had to take the tighter inside line, which put him in a disadvantage since he couldn't really complete the pass by the time he was at the apex. But Goos is not giving up. He's still on the gearbox of Upton, right underneath the car wing. So why don't we go aboard and see what's happening here? So you can see down the main straight, keeping very close to Upton. Again, looking up the inside. As a driver, this is a very scary moment. Decides to rather fall back. He knows that Upton can carry that momentum. He knows he's got a formidable opponent here, and that's not the turn to attack. Now, as to settle back, follow with enough distance that he doesn't get held up at the apex, and just bide his time and see where he can get an opportunity. Again, catching a draft, but not really in the position to make use of it. You can see him backing off on the throttle, giving himself space through the S's so that he can carry the momentum. And we've got another car on the outside who's run wide into the gravel trap. You can see Goos managing that gap, trying to see where he can force a mistake from his opponent. Upton having none of that, having a superb drive through that turn. And we might have some back markers up front, although no. On the Delta, Upton is actually catching up with Timo Smith. So jumping to Upton, we've got a car there running wide. That's probably one of the back markers. I don't see someone dropping back on the timing screen. And again, Goos staying so close to Upton. And I'm going to try and see if I can... Oh, and up on the outside, we've got Goos making the move. He's going to be at a slight disadvantage going through the S's. And you can see him just dropping behind there. Leach, unfortunately, seems to have had a bit of a moment, dropping back several places. Just going to get a better TV screen. So the gaps are opening up. Van Rooyen driving out from underneath the pack, setting another fastest lap, 109.416. It came up as a purple time, so I'm going to assume it was. Oh, and unfortunately, Upton jumping across the curb and Goos gaining the position there from his opponent's mistake. It's all going to be difficult now. Upton needs to build up that confidence again. Further down the pack, Versace and Stander, Dylan Versace and Dani Stander, within striking distance of one another. And we'll see whether this is going to develop into a battle. Versace doing a substantially better time than Stander, almost 2 seconds. Moving on the outside, he's going to be on the inside for the chicane, and Stander giving him the space. Unfortunately, Versace outdriving himself and spinning out his car. He's got to be kicking himself about that one. Looking at Mornay deploy as he drifts to the last corner. I'm sorry, but that's hopefully not my commentator's curse. I don't think I've developed one yet. Oh no. Apologies again, we've been without car sound. So, just a note, we have moved across to a new platform for the streaming, and it's had a bit of its growing pains. But it should be better now. The race audio should not be disappearing at the moment. Okay. Back at it. So let me just double check that we've got all the sound. Okay, yeah. Thank goodness. Okay, so in front of the play, Mitchell is within striking distance of Rowan Bauer. It's so difficult with these cameras, it's not really any useful cameras. So through the last corner onto the main straight, we can see Bauer running a bit wide. That's open the gap for Mitchell to come up the inside. Is going to pull alongside him by the end of the straight. Is he going to go up the inside, try and make the turn? And we see him, he's going for it. It's still side by side. Unfortunately, a bit of contact there, some argy-bargy there, but both of the drivers staying on track and moving through. Thankfully, with these cars, they're not open wheelers, so you're not going to have that much damage from a shunt like that. I'm just really glad Bauer actually maintained control of his car and stayed on the track itself. So Bauer is probably going to have his eye on Mitchell there. trying to get past him again. Up ahead, close, looking at Timo Smith. Now that he's cleared up and he's had the opportunity to move forward a bit. We'll see here what kind of times they're doing. So we'll just wait until they go down the back straight. And you can see Goos lapping, I think it's just over 2/10 faster than... sorry, Goos just lapping 2/10 faster than Smith. So he does have a bit of pace, but you do need a fairly substantial difference in time to make an overtake stick. I see some movement up ahead. That's just a back mark that they've got in front of them. So this is going to complicate things a bit. And one of the cars running wide. That's going to complicate the lines a bit. That turn out of the chicane does seem quite tricky. Goos staying very close to Smith. And we'll see here. He's close enough to have a draft. Smith running defensive on the inside. Is Goos going to be able to carry that momentum through the outside of the corner? And unfortunately, he's not able to pull alongside, but he does have the inside line for the chicane. And he pulls behind his opponent. Wow, those three cars just running so close together. How they've not touched each other is a bit of a mystery, but everyone doing really well not to crash there. Some up close racing. Going to quickly check. Where is Bauer? Bauer also getting close to Dennis Mitchell. Still the second gap, but he's also coming under pressure from Monet Deploy. So we'll see what comes first. Is he going to get the opportunity to go for an overtake, or is he going to have to defend? We have a back marker. It is going to complicate things. The back marker doing really well to keep out the way. I'm not sure whose car that is. And that's given Bauer a bit of breathing room, but it's also given Mitchell a bit of breathing room. Yeah, this track seems to be so difficult on these cars. Just maintaining that rear tire grip does seem to be where everyone's having a bunch of trouble. I don't see the cars understeering that much, although they do seem to be running wide on the exit of turn 1. Monet Deploy is catching Bauer here, so we do have a battle on our hands. And as far as I know, Monet is a bit rusty in regards to the circuit. I have seen him racing in a different event this week, so he's not had as much time to practice as Bauer here. And unfortunately, we've got one of the cars, I think that might be James Leach, going off. These chicanes are so tricky. If you just overstep your car too much on the one side, you're going to get pulled into the gravel or into a wall. And once you've got that damage to your car, it becomes a lot more difficult. And there we can see Leach dropping back, so that's probably his car. I'll just quickly make sure that it is him. Yes, so he's the black and pink car, so unfortunately having a bit of a rough time. Rowan Bauer is, as I say it, he's running wide, and he's going to have to be very careful re-entering there. He re-enters before Monet Deploy and takes a very adventurous line, and unfortunately that's going to cost him a bit. Doing well to avoid the car of Monet Deploy, and Monet Deploy also keeping his cool. Further up ahead, Goos again. This guy is so good at following closely behind other cars. So down the main straight they go. And with a minute 10 seconds lap, you are going to have a lot of back markers come into play, especially with this many cars on the track. And you're never really in a situation where you're too alone. But if we look at Goos, we can definitely say he's not following the COVID guidelines when it comes to leaving some space between himself and another car. But thankfully this is racing and not real life. Through the S's, and again you can see him just able to maintain such a small gap. It does take a lot of confidence in your own braking abilities and that of your opponent, since you don't have much time to react at all. 2 laps to go, the time has run out, and this is not supposed to be the last lap. I don't know why the guys are crashing out. It might have been a bit of contact there for the end, but we're still racing. It says 2 laps to go. It should only be 1 after the time has run out. Van Rooyen running away with the race with the 7-second lead. Caldena's behind him, also running a bit of a lonely race. 3 seconds until Timo Smit, who's pulled... Oh, of course, we lost Melvin Goos along the way. Not really too much going on. So we'll stick with Arnie van Rooyen. We haven't seen him that much yet. And he's just delivered some really consistent racing, able to bring everything home. And this is going to be a very, very comfortable win for him. And now we're on the final lap. So I do apologize. It seems like the timing software has again misled me a bit. And we just see someone shooting off the grass there. There's a bit of an alternative line to turn 1. But I do think you lose a ton of time. Plus, at some point, you might start getting penalties for running that wide, or for running off the track that many times. So for Rooyen, just on his own, and no real battles near the end. I think everyone's just kind of focusing on maintaining the race. Melvin Goos has been able to recover in 6th place, but he's going to kick himself about that 4th place that they lost out on. Then, looking further back, everyone fairly spread out. Ian Upton making a recovery from his earlier mistake, and he's able to come home in 4th. So Van Rooyen crosses the line and wins the race. Geldenhuys just behind him, 2nd. Timo Smit taking 3rd, and Upton coming home with 4th place. Then off in the distance, we've got Dennis Mitchell crossing the line, 5th place. Melvin Goos coming in with the 6th place. Peter Grobler, 7th place. And then Rambo, 8th. Monet Deploy with the 9th place. Sean Johnson going to be 10th. Then Versaghi finishing 11th. And Stander, Rust, Leach, Goos, Van der Merwe, Versaghi, and then Van Wyk. And this does look like a bit of chaos at the moment. And might it be that Johnson ran out of fuel? That is a bit of a tricky one. It does seem to be crawling towards the line, but Yeah, he's run out of fuel. Wow. That's a bit of a shocker. And then James Leach also coming to a stop. So I'm just going to put us on the intermission screen. And I'll leave the car noises in the background. I'd rather not risk switching it off again. So while we're waiting for the server to kick over, I can just quickly have a look at my notes if I've forgotten anything. One thing, if you do want to get involved with Sim Experience South Africa, in the YouTube video there should be links in the description, both to our sponsor Alwyn and then to the Discord channel itself. So you can go and have a look there, and you're welcome to join us. It does seem to be a few things still happening on the server. So I'm guessing we're at least going to be a minute and a half until we get started again. So yeah, a minute that all the drivers have to make sure that they've got everything loaded. I'm just going to also ready myself to swap over to the pits. And yeah, I'll quickly just check the chat again. So Alvin is saying there's a bit of issues on the server side. So I do think the code for this track is kind of poorly optimized. It's been wreaking havoc on my CPU. I've got an overclocked CPU and it's still causing issues. So I can imagine some people having a lot of issues with the track at the moment. That is going to be the thing with some of these Assetto Corsa tracks. There are some mods that might not be as optimized as the rest. So we do have everyone ready for the race. It's welcoming back. We've got sound. We've got everyone starting. Lights are on. And up in front, for some reason, Mornay Deploy is on pole. I think it might just have been the first 10 drivers to get a reverse grid. So Mornay leading the pack into turn 1. We've got Melvin Gous looking for a move up the inside and making that pass in the first turn. So Melvin Gous probably very happy with that. Some action down further. Just going to focus here on Ian Upton, as everyone seems to get through there much more cleanly than they did with the previous race. So this is really good to see. Peter Geldenhuis also advancing through the pack, and it's going to be really difficult to see which car he is at the moment. And again, that turn after the S's catching quite a few drivers out. Geldenhuis coming under pressure. We've got Mitchell looking to come around the outside. He's not going to have the space. That corner belongs to Geldenhuis. And now we have someone running on the inside here. That does look like Mitchell, with only barely a tenth. He's going to try and send it up the inside. And Mitchell getting alongside, but not making the move stick. And now Timo Smith kind of leading them through. Kalna is doing very well to defend for his position there, making sure that he gets the optimal line. Further ahead, we've got a battle for the lead. Melvin Goes putting Mornay Deploy under pressure. And we know Melvin Goes is excellent at following. In the background, you can see Grobler following Rowan Bauer, and Rowan Bauer actually running wide. So that's put Peter Grobler out ahead in front of him. Going back to Melvin Goes. He still has a bit of space to gain before he can reach Deploy. And this first corner is going to prove crucial. Up behind, we've got some action happening here. We'll stick here. Peter Grobler, Rowan Bauer, and Dennis Mitchell all battling for the same position there. And someone getting quite out of shape and doing very well to save that car from that spin out. That seems to be Bauer that's spun out like that. And Mitchell doing very well to stay close to Grobler. Goes still staying with Deploy, looking at the times. Further back, I'm going to jump to Johnson. Sean Johnson putting the pressure on Rowan Bauer, who now has to recover from his mistake. There's a lot of cars on this section of the track, and it's going to prove difficult. So Johnson in the Coke car, number 7. And he's under pressure from Timo Smith behind him. Timo Smith, Ian Upton, and Dylan Fasaki all running very close to him. Smith catching the draft, going up the inside for the attack, and making the move stick. So some nice driving there from Timo Smith. Upton also looking at an opportunity from Johnson. So this is quite close. Upton running into the grey Nissan and being overtaken by Fasaki there. So a lot of things happening at the same time. Then up ahead, Melvin Goes also very close to the leader. Jump ahead. They're kind of off racing by their own, so it's going to provide them with a very good opportunity to have some good racing against one another. I do apologize, there is a lot happening at the moment. So Peter Grobler in the middle of a battle between himself, Van der Rooyen, and Peter Geldenhuis. It's only lap 4 and everyone's kind of jumping around. People driving hard to defend their positions. And we can see just the queue of cars kind of forming behind certain people. So Grobler doing very well to keep close to Van der Rooyen through the first few corners. And ideally he wants to keep himself out of reach from Geldenhuis, who's also trying to get an opportunity and to take that 5th place. And that's Grobler running wide and taking evasive action and putting Geldenhuis right underneath his wing. So we do have to question what's that going to do for his mental game. He's going to be flustered from the mistake. He's going to be flustered from that car behind him. And he might make another mistake, giving Geldenhuis an opportunity to overtake. Let's see how this first turn goes. Geldenhuis looking up the inside, but too far back for anything feasible or anything practical to be possible. Grobler with a... Sorry, not Grobler, but... Oh, these cars were starting to get a bit confusing. But you can see some of the drivers just getting a lot of oversteer with the rear of the car just slipping out. So Gelderij is still looking at an opportunity to get past. A nice little shot of them. And you can kind of see it almost looks like the cars are drifting slash sliding through these corners. So you can just tell how close to the limit they actually are. Deploy seems to be pulling out from Host to some extent. He's got a 1.3 second gap between him and Melvin Goos. So that's giving him a bit of breathing room. Further down, anything interesting happening? Ian Upton also fighting for position with Sean Johnson. So Sean Johnson running in the red Coca-Cola car there. I think it's Coca-Cola. And doing a very good job of keeping nice and close. We'll see if he leaves a bit of a gap through the downhill S's. But his time doesn't say that. So you do need to be careful. You can see how much of his brakes he's utilizing with the brakes glowing red. But he's doing very well to stay nice and close. You can see him going to the outside, kind of opening up the corner for himself, getting the optimal line through there. Just slight touch of the curb, but not enough to unsettle the car. And we'll see whether he's going to be able to catch a bit of a draft. I don't think he's close enough to overtake him by the end of the straight, but it's close enough to put the pressure on Johnson. Meanwhile, speaking about pressure, Melvin Goos, and unfortunately, Johnson running wide. Upton is going to say thank you very much, take the position, and charge on ahead. And that's how difficult it is with these cars. You really need to pay attention, and you can't slip up just once. If you've got a car behind you, they're going to look for any opportunity that you can give them. Then up ahead, speaking of pressure, Melvin Goos is starting to close down the gap to Deploy. It's only 3 tenths, gaining huge amount of time on Deploy. Deploy feeling the pressure and unfortunately not running an optimal line. That's going to send him wide. Both cars run wide. Goos is the first to rejoin the track. Deploy is completely out of it. And Goos making use of that mistake to go on ahead. Deploy now under pressure from Mitchell, and Mitchell's on the inside for the S's down the hill. Deploy makes the smart move and tucks behind. Going 2 cars wide through this is just asking for trouble. And you can see them just running through there nice and cleanly. We also have Versaghi once again, not Skalk Versaghi, but Dylan Versaghi in a bit of a sandwich here and running between Johnson and Mitchell Rust. I'm not sure if that's Michelle or Mitchell, so I'll have to check on the service afterwards. So I apologize if it's Michelle. And Rowan Bauer, as we're talking about it, unfortunately I think Michelle might have had a bit of an off while I was looking at the screen. Another sandwich is developing. Peter Grobler and Peter Geldenhuis, making it really difficult for me with Timo Smit in front of them. So the 2 Peters looking at Mr. Smit. And 3 drivers, basically a second separating them. And that car right there is unfortunately deployee having a rough time. He might have damaged his tires by going off there, and that might have just made his car that much more difficult to drive. Whether he opts to go into the pits to get that damage repaired depends on him. So the two pitters now looking to have a bit more of a battle between them, between themselves. Although Pieter Galna is barely running a faster lap than Pieter Grobler. And both of them aggressively using that curb. It's a very dangerous thing to do. It's so easy to throw your car out wide if you're not careful, since that curb just pushes you onto the outside tire. Oh, apologies. That curb pulls you in onto the inside line. And unfortunately, Pieter Galna is running wide through the S's. I'm not sure how he was able to maintain the position on Pieter Grobler there. But we're back with Pieter Galna and Pieter Grobler. Timo Smit has since gained a lot of time. That car in front of them is one of the back markers. I'm not exactly sure whose car that is. Meanwhile, up at front, Dennis Mitchell is blasting his way through the pack. He's now behind Melvin Goos and putting a lot of pressure on him as this. We know Melvin is having some issues with equipment, so he's already at a disadvantage here. So we'll see. He's done a very good job of driving through the difficulties. And we'll see whether he's able to maintain that gap. Dennis Mitchell staying nice and close and getting held up by Melvin Goos there a bit. So he still has the draft, but it's not enough for him to make a move. Although he's looking up the inside. Is he going to be able to make the outbraking maneuver? He decides not to. Just tucks him behind with 3/10 of difference. Slight bit of oversteer there on the exit of turn 1. Both drivers aggressively using the curb. It seems to be the fastest way around here for that chicane. Up the hill, getting ready for the S's. Not much that they can do there, but they do. Mitchell does want to maintain this 3/10 gap, if not less. It's also tricky with these S's. It's a very difficult braking zone, kind of blind down the hill. We can see Goos catching a bit more curb than Mitchell, and that's given Mitchell the better exit. You can see the times coming down, and Mitchell getting very close. He can almost touch the car in front. So down the back straight they go. Has he had the better drive out of the corner? And that answer is probably not. So Goos opening up the gap, giving himself some breathing room. And unfortunately, that's caused him to run wide. Mitchell almost following in the footsteps of his opponent. And they do have to resume the battle. But Goos is under heavy pressure here and decides to rather give the position to Mitchell, playing fair. You can't really cut the track and then expect to maintain the position. I remember Max Verstappen doing that in a Formula 1 race, actually getting kicked out of a podium ceremony. It's actually happened to him twice. Where he's had a time penalty robbing him of a podium finish. So you do need to be careful. You can't just run willy-nilly. You do need to stay within the lines of the track. You can't gain an advantage running off the track. The only reason why you would run off the track and then try and safely rejoin is for safety reasons. And it's also difficult with the the gravel traps on the other side, since it makes your car really difficult to control. It's almost like driving on ice because you can just start bouncing across it, and grass being even worse. So Deploy unfortunately having a bit of a bad day, and I think his confidence might just be badly hurt. Going to jump around a bit. Peter Galnhuys and Peter Grobler are still behind Timo Smit, and Timo actually opening up the gap. So the two Peters, no, I apologize. They're actually, yeah, I've been reading my timing screen wrong. It's Van Rooyen, Daniel Van Rooyen opening up the gap between himself and Timo Smit. Timo Smit still under pressure from Peter Galnhuys, and Peter Grobler dropping back a bit. So that's given Peter Galnhuys an opportunity to focus all of his attention on Timo Smit. Michel Versaghi saying, well done, Skalk, you're doing great. And to Skalk Versaghi, yeah man, it's really nice to see you going for it in your first race. And it seems to be a very difficult track. Those S's are easy to catch you out, and I can see that it's a very tricky braking zone for the first corner. It's very easy to understand and run wide. So just the fact that you're already participating is very impressive. I think Skalk Versaghi actually just made an overtake as we were talking. And that would be Mornay Deploy pitting to repair the damage to his car. That car becoming really difficult to drive. Then looking around, Daniel Van Rooyen, a whole bunch of cars here. We've got one of the back markers getting out of the way. And Goos and Mitchell swapping. So all kinds of chaos happening with the back markers here. Mitchell and Goos trading places again. So we've got Dennis Mitchell leading the race. Right behind him is Melvin Goos. And Daniel Van Rooyen has managed to caught up with that chaos that was happening on screen with the back markers. It's so difficult to as a back marker, to first leave the space for another driver. And we've got a car completely turned the wrong way around there. Looking like he's one of the photographers catching a bit of a glimpse of everyone. And that's a really difficult situation to be in, to be able to then turn your car around safely at the exit of a corner. It's really difficult. So the three leaders of the race are fighting for one another. Mitchell getting a really bad exit out of the corner. And we've got on the inside Mitchell, Melvin Goos. Melvin not really able to make the overtake stick, but he is really close to Mitchell. 3/10 separating the drivers. It might be an opportunity for overtake. Mitchell running on the inside. We've got 2 laps left. Sorry, the final lap. So what are we going to see from the 3 leaders here? Goos running wide. That's going to cost him time. Is Van Rooyen going to be able to pick up the slack? Running aggressive across the curbs. Van Rooyen showing that you do not need to do that. So we'll see what happens with Van Rooyen from here. I think Mitchell has a good opportunity to make a win out of this. Just needs to be consistent. Goos also desperately trying to hold on to that position. You can see him carrying tons of speed through the S's, really pushing the limits of what this car can handle. And he's opened up a bit of a buffer between himself and Van Rooyen. Is that going to be enough? The gap is still opening up. Goos pushing it really hard. Are we going to see a good finish for Goos here? Again, some weird things. And there we go. The finish line is just a bit further down. So, in contrast to his weekend last week, in contrast to last Saturday, Melvin able to take second. Big congrats to Dennis Mitchell taking first. Dani van Rooyen taking third, and we see some victory donuts from Ghost. You just need to be careful that you don't ruin someone else's lap there. Then we've got Timo Smith fourth. Then Dylan Fasaki behind him, Sean Johnson, and jumping to Skalk Fasaki, also finishing in a 14th position. Just shout out to him. Well done for your first race, buddy. It's really good, and you do have some strong drivers up in the front of the standings, so I think you can be very happy with where you finished. And yeah, just quickly running down the results again. So we have Dennis Mitchell, Melvin Goos, Dani van Rooyen, Timo Smit, Pieter Galnhuis, Pieter Grobler, Fasaki, whose name I cannot see on my list anymore. Then we've got Johnson, position 8, Bauer, 9th, Rist, 10, Leach, number 11, Van Beek 12, Stander 13, Fasaki 14th, Ian Upton in 15th, Mornay Deploy unfortunately with damage to his car in 16th position, then Rian van der Westhuizen in 17th, and Harvey Goos unfortunately with damage in the pits. So just want to thank everyone for watching, everyone on the YouTube channel shouting for their friends, their family, their loved ones. Just want to thank you for the support you're giving to these drivers. It's always really great knowing you're racing with some fans backing you up. Also, once again, just want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Alwyn, and I'll just quickly see if I can bring that logo up again. Well, we've got the logo up on screen at the top right. Their website is alwyn.co.za, and then I've also included the Discord link in the description of this video. If it's not there, just leave us a comment on the video, and one of us should be able to spot it and get you involved with the community. I just want to say thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking with us for the 2 races, and I hope you have a really good evening. Thank you very much.